Good evening. Thanks very much for joining us on Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. The market registers its fourth straight day of gains. Autos, metals, oil and gas fueled the rally. Broader markets outperformed the frontline indices. China has lifted restrictions on exports of rare earth magnets, fertilizers and tunnel boring machines to India. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi assures Minister Jaishankar that India's concerns on import restrictions are being addressed. That's an exclusive. President Trump urges Ukraine-Zelenskyy and Russia's Putin to meet face-to-face in a trilateral summit to end the war, hints at security guarantees for Ukraine backed by European leaders, but stops short of making any concrete commitments towards a peace deal. Intel gets a $2 billion lifeline from Softbank. The Japanese investor is expected to pick up 2% equity in the troubled American chip maker, as per Bloomberg. As per Bloomberg, Trump administration is also considering picking up a 10% stake in Intel. Tamil Nadu and Kerala government questions the maintainability of presidential reference on the issue of the Supreme Court mandating a timeline for clearing bills. Call it a camouflaged attempt by the centre to overturn the apex court's judgment. Heavy rains for the fourth day bring Mumbai to a standstill. Waterlogged roads lead to traffic snarls. Local train services impacted. Schools, colleges and government offices remain shut. Authorities urge citizens to avoid unnecessary travel. Let's go straight to the day's market action. The Lal Street registering its fourth day of gains. The market closing in the green again after broader markets outperformed. Auto, FMCG and textile stocks charged ahead, while some pharma stocks saw some pressure. Nifty up 100 points. That's 0.5% gain. 370 points higher on the Sensex. The Nifty Bank 130 points high and 555 points high. Almost a percent uptick there for the mid-cap index. Prashant is standing by, building on the gains. Prashant.
A more measured start, and it looked like the market perhaps would consolidate after yesterday's sharp move. But then things picked up we ended pretty strong, especially actually in the broader market space. Mid and small cap indices about 1% higher. Nifty Bank was up about 0.25%, and the Nifty itself ending with about 1/3% or 100 odd points coming through on the benchmark Nifty. So all told, pretty good follow-up day. I'll start with what was up, and by the way, market breadth was pretty strong. Almost 2 and 2.5 to 1 in terms of all stocks which were trading. And as you will see, I'll get to the broader market, mid and small cap space. Really scattered move, but lots of volume-led gains. Not sector-wise up moves like what we had yesterday on the back of hopeful GST relief. Now on the Nifty, Tata Motors, Hero, Bajaj were higher. You had Adani Ports, which was up. There was Reliance, which was higher. And there was Eternal, which actually looked pretty strong through the course of the day. On the downside, Dr. Reddy's, Cipla and Hindalco were the three names which were down, but nothing major, between 0.75% to about 1% lower. The broader market is where the excitement is. Ola was up 9%, the number one volume-led gain, about 44 rupees there. Bellrise, which is a recently, fairly recent listing, strong volume-led gains. Jamna Auto, actually a lot of the auto ancillary names looked up. Jamna was one of them. You had Hyundai, which was higher sharply on volumes. Devyani, which is a quick service company, which looked good. Vardhaman Textiles was up from the word go this morning. Motherson Sumi Wire, both stocks higher. Delta Corp perked up ended about 7-8% in the green. Raymond was up. Aether, again, a recent listing. Aarti Pharma, Everready, there was something like a Shelley Engineering, which also looked higher. As I said, the real action in the broader market space, and except maybe auto ancillaries, which is as a pocket which did well, very little to sort of bunch things together. Bharat Dynamics was the loser in the broader market, big volumes here. Bajaj Holdings was down about 5% by close. Actually, these are the two big volume-led losers. Newland was down about 4%. IFB had a big move yesterday, was down 3.5%. Intellect Design and a bunch of other names down between 3 and 4%. But squarely the day belongs to bulls, with broader markets, mid and small caps doing bulk of the heavy lifting. Back to you.
Well, that's the market action for you, Prashant. Many thanks for joining us. But let's go straight to the big story this evening. As we've been reporting, China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi meets Prime Minister Modi today ahead of his visit to Tianjin for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit, which is going to be held later this month. But earlier in the day, he met the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval for a special representatives dialogue on the border issue in New Delhi. The Chinese minister remarked that stability has been restored at the border, adding that the setbacks that India and China faced in the past are not in the interests of either country. The sentiment was echoed by NSA Doval, who said, and I quote, peace and tranquility has prevailed over the past 9 months. The Chinese leader also met External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar to discuss bilateral ties and trade relations. This marked the second such meeting between the two sides since 2020. Now, sources tell us that China has lifted restrictions on the exports of rare earth magnets, fertilizers and tunnel boring machines. Parikshit is standing by with more. Parikshit, we've been reporting on efforts being made there for both sides to re-engage, at least economically, on these crucial issues, these three crucial matters. Industry has been very, very disappointed with these restrictions. Is there relief now in sight?
Well, that's what sources are claiming. We've been told that the conversation between External Affairs Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar and Foreign Minister Wang Yi of China was extremely fruitful. And this is really taking place after a series of conversations between India and China at the level of foreign secretaries, at the level of Defense Minister, External Affairs Minister, to resolve the rare earth magnet issue. Now, we've been given to know by highly placed sources that restrictions on the export of rare earth magnets, that is high rare earth magnets from China, tunnel boring machines, specialty fertilizers, those restrictions have been lifted. We are expecting clearances and consignments to come very soon. In fact, clearances are being made as we speak, and shipments of these key components will be dispatched to India in the coming few weeks and months. More timelines, more conditions will be clear to exporters, to the industry in the coming days, but we can see an incremental improvement in business-to-business ties between the two countries. It is also essential to note what Wang Yi, the Chinese foreign minister, conveyed to India. He said there should not be interference in each other's affairs. There needs to be stability, confidence in relations, mutual respect, and we both need to grow together and work for each other's prosperity. So strong words coming in from both sides. All of this is building up to the visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Tianjin on the 31st of August and the 1st of September, where he will be meeting Xi Jinping. And a lot of these things will be clear. We've been seeing decisions on resuming flights, tourist visas being started by the Indian side. So we expect an improvement in ties that will be announced during the visit to the Prime Minister. But lifting of restrictions on these key items, especially high rare earth magnets, is a big one.
All right, Parikshit, many thanks for joining us. So breakthrough there, and that should provide some relief specifically to sectors like the auto industry. The big global story, President Trump hosting Ukraine's President Zelenskyy and 7 other European leaders at the White House last evening. There were meetings between Trump and Zelenskyy as well, and that involved the EU leaders. Trump's meeting with Zelenskyy was much more warmer and conciliatory this time than their previous showdown a few months ago. President Trump hinted at security guarantees for Ukraine backed by European leaders, but stopped short of making any concrete commitments towards a peace deal. Meanwhile, Zelenskyy repeatedly thanked the US president. Trump said on social media he has begun arranging a meeting between Putin and Zelenskyy. He said he will work on a trilateral meeting after the bilateral meeting takes place between Zelenskyy and Putin. The Ukrainian president at a news conference said he's ready for any format of a meeting with the Russian president. Zelenskyy, who was criticized for his attire during his last visit to the Oval Office, was praised by Trump this time around for wearing a suit. Listen in.
President Zelenskyy, you look fabulous in that suit.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, you look good.
I said the same thing.
Yeah, looks good on
I
you.
said the one that attacked you last time. See, now I remember that.
Yeah, I apologize to you. You look wonderful. No, my first question for you, President Zelenskyy.
In the same suit. You see, I changed. You are not.
Is there a date for you to meet with President Putin?
The date?
Yes.
No, we don't have any date.
No
We don't
date.
have any date. We just confirmed after this productive meeting with President and then with all our colleagues, with the partners, we confirmed that we are ready for trilateral meeting. And if Russia proposed to President of the United States bilateral, and then we will see the result of bilateral, and then it can be the trilateral. So I said always, so Ukraine will never stop on the way to peace, and we are ready for any kind of formats, but on the level of leaders.
There'll be a lot of help. When it comes to security, there's going to be a lot of help. It's going to be good. They are first line of defense because they're there. They're Europe. But we're going to help them out also. We'll be involved. But we can work a deal where we're working on a peace deal while they're fighting. They have to fight. I wish they could stop. I'd like them to stop. But strategically, that could be a disadvantage for one side or the other. But all of these deals I made without even the mention of the words ceasefire.
You have an American president, European presidents, and a Ukrainian president all wanting peace. For my part, I have the greatest doubts about the reality of a desire for peace on the part of the Russian president, because as long as he thinks he can win through war, he will do so.
We had two material outcomes. The first, on the question of security guarantees, was the agreement that the coalition of willing countries, that's 30 countries already working together on security guarantees, will now work with the US on those guarantees, coordinating. The other material outcome was the agreement that will now be a bilateral agreement between President Putin and President Zelenskyy.
All the points of discussion of what is going to go into any kind of peace deal that will end the Russian assault on Ukraine. And so we heard that there's the potential for the U.S. to join a peacekeeping force with Europeans to ensure future security. This is something that we've heard time and again. Both Ukraine's President Zelenskyy and European allies have said there needs to be security guarantees to ensure that Russia's not just going to come back and launch another attack after ending some sort of peace deal here. And President Zelenskyy was asked, what are you actually asking for? Is it American troops, intelligence, equipment? What is it? He said everything. Very short and sweet. And President Trump did say that Putin had agreed to allow some form of security guarantees. European allies are praising the push for peace, and particularly the idea of stepping in to allow those security guarantees. But they're also pressing still for an immediate ceasefire, which is something that President Trump has backed off of after his Alaska summit with Putin, now arguing that negotiations toward a broad peace deal can continue while the fighting rages on. And again, of course, the other main sticking point is whether there's going to be any carving up of Ukrainian territory. President Zelenskyy has said multiple times that he does not want to cede any territory to the occupiers. He showed a battlefield map and continued to make that case. But the next step from here is that President Trump posted that he called Russian President Putin and has begun arrangements for a long-sought meeting between Putin and Zelenskyy. If that does indeed come to pass, that could be a major step forward in what has been this awful onslaught for 3.5 years.
Well, that is the latest on that big meeting that took place. But a quick check of some of the other stories that we're tracking. Sources say the Union Cabinet has approved a bill to regulate online gaming and penalise betting. The bill is likely to be introduced in Parliament tomorrow. Softbank Group is set to invest $2 billion in U.S. chipmaker Intel. Softbank will buy nearly 87 million shares at the price of $23 a share. The transaction is expected to give Softbank about 2% stake in Intel. This will make it the chipmaker's sixth largest shareholder, so an important global development there. And speaking of Intel, the Trump administration is set to be in talks to acquire 10% stake in the company via the CHIPS Act. This as per a Bloomberg report. The U.S. government could also consider converting some or all of Intel's grants from the 2022 Act into equity in the company. The semiconductor giant has been awarded about $11 billion in the CHIPS Act grants. This also includes $8 billion to support its domestic investment plans and $3 billion to boost its semiconductor manufacturing for national security. What a ride it's been there from Intel, from going after the CEO to now perhaps even picking up equity in the company itself. That is the Trump administration's likely move there. Now, shares of jewellery brand Bluestone listing at a 3% discount to its issue price. However, the stock perked up in trade, closing with gains of 6%. The public issue was subscribed 2.72 times. Bluestone intends to use the proceeds from the fresh issue to fund its working capital requirements. Brokerage firm Nomura says investors may not be fully factoring in the risk of fresh U.S. tariffs on Indian exports. Speaking to CNBC-TV18, the head of global macro research, Robert Subramaniam, said that there will be a negative response if the secondary duties go into effect on the 27th of August, as this is not fully anticipated just yet. A break coming up. Heavy rains batter Mumbai for the fourth straight day, bringing the city to a standstill. Waterlogged roads lead to snarls, and local train services are impacted. That and more when we return. Mumbai continues to grapple with heavy rains and waterlogging for the third straight day. The Met Department has issued a red alert across Mumbai, Palghar, Thane and Raigad. Officials say that at least 6 people have died. Hundreds have been displaced over the last couple of days. The BMC has declared a public holiday for all schools and colleges. Multiple flights have been cancelled. The city's rail network has come to a halt. The Maharashtra government has deployed rescue teams across the state, and affected regions continue to stay on high alert. Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis has been reviewing the flood situation with the Disaster Management Department. He said the next 48 hours will be crucial for Mumbai and other adjoining districts. BMC Commissioner R. Bhushan Gagrani told CNBC-TV18 the Mithi River, which was close to its danger mark earlier, will recede in the next couple of hours. He also added that hundreds of people have been evacuated from areas close to the Mithi River. Listen in.
Water is slowly receding now. It has just gone below 39 now, 390. And there is a low tide. So hopefully next couple of hours, it will be below the danger mark. However, we are in full preparedness of shifting whatever number of people required. We have shifted 400, but if required, we'll be able to shift, in fact, entire population which is coming under the danger zone.
Well, that is the latest there from Mumbai. Tamil Nadu and Kerala governments have questioned the maintainability of presidential reference on the issue of the Supreme Court mandating a timeline for clearing bills. The state governments have called it a camouflage attempt by the centre to overturn the apex court's judgment. Ashmit joins us now with more. Ashmit, where does this now leave the role and the significance of the governor's action or inaction?
Well, it was in April 2025 that the Supreme Court passed a landmark judgment prescribing a deadline for the very first time, a deadline for the governor, a deadline for the president to clear bills that are being passed by the state assemblies. This order was passed after multiple states, the likes of Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Punjab, Delhi, had raised questions about the respective governors stymieing the entire legislative process by just sitting on these bills. However, landmark as it was, it invited a strong pushback from the centre saying that the Supreme Court has no business dictating terms to the governor as well as to the president's office, which is what led to President Draupadi Murmu making a presidential reference, which is essentially raising a question before the Supreme Court. The sum and substance of those questions was, does the Supreme Court have the powers to prescribe deadlines for the president's office? Now, the states of Kerala and Tamil Nadu are dead set against this. What they're saying is that the president merely acts on the aid and advice of the government, and therefore this is nothing but the government that is using the window of the presidential reference to overturn the Supreme Court judgment. They said that this is essentially a way to bypass the Supreme Court judgment, a way to overturn it, a way to substitute the Supreme Court judgment. This is simply impermissible. In fact, Abhishek Manu Singhvi, appearing for the state of Tamil Nadu, went on to say that whatever language one may use to camouflage this is nothing but a ruse, an attempt by the centre to overturn an existing Supreme Court judgment, that this will severely impact institutional integrity, something that cannot be permitted. The centre, however, remaining firm that this is broadly a question of law being raised by the president, and there's no reason why the Supreme Court can't consider it.
Ashmit, many thanks. Now, the opposition bloc has decided to field former Supreme Court Judge B. Sudarshan Reddy as the candidate for the vice presidential elections on the 9th of September. Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge made the announcement in a meeting. Reddy served as the Chief Justice of the Guwahati High Court before being elevated to the Supreme Court in 2007. International news: Israeli forces have killed at least 26 Palestinians since dawn in Gaza. This includes 8 people who were killed after their tents were blown by the IDF. Hamas has informed mediators that it has approved a proposal for a ceasefire deal. Israeli forces have killed over 62,000 Palestinians in Gaza since the war began in 2023. OpenAI has launched a new subscription plan for Indian users called ChatGPT Go. It's a low-cost subscription plan that will feature enhanced message limits, image generation and chat memory. The new plan will cost ₹399 a month. The company said the rollout will be gradual and the option will appear for users on the app and the website in the coming days. Prime Minister Modi met Shubhanshu Shukla, the pilot of the Axiom 4 space mission to the International Space Station, at his official residence. Shukla briefed the Prime Minister about his landmark mission, sharing his experiences of being in space. He gifted the Prime Minister his Axiom 4 mission patch and shared photos of the Earth taken from the International Space Station. And with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of Business 360. The news will continue right here on CNBC-TV18. Stay tuned. We're back in a moment.